Hello everyone. Welcome to the EOcafe, where the EO community meet. I'm joined today by Katarina Bamps from the European Commission, the Copernicus office, policy officer in the Copernicus program, and Thomas Johnson, also policy officer but responsible for Cassini. You may recall Thomas has been with us before talking about the Cassini program, and he'll give us an update today. So we want to talk about commercial data for Copernicus and new space. But just before, for anyone who's not been into the EOcafe before, which I'm not looking at the list of attendees, so maybe there's someone who's not been here before. Hopefully this time we've got the setup such that you can turn your microphone, your cameras on. So please keep your microphones off unless I ask you to come in. Feel free to use your camera. It's great to be able to see everyone. And when we come to questions, or at any point you can put questions into the chat, we'll follow those. And if we get to that point, then I will ask you to come in and put the question yourself so that you can get involved as well. So that's about it. What have I done? Okay, so today we want to talk about Copernicus, and you may be aware, most of you I hope, that there was a consultation issued by ESA a few weeks ago. This was taken on behalf of the European Commission and looking at the supply of commercial data into the Copernicus contributing missions. And the idea is to try to encourage European SMEs and startups in the supply of data into the mission. Now there'll be a workshop in a couple of weeks' time that Katarina will tell us about in a minute. And so we thought it was a good idea to sort of have this EOcafe as a sort of interim to brief everyone, to prepare everyone for the consultation, to answer any questions you may have in advance, and basically to help prepare for this workshop. And I'll let Katarina explain more in a minute. So I said the goal, encourage SMEs and startups. This is about what is referred to as new space. Don't particularly like the term, but it's well recognized and describes what's happening. So new space missions. Encourage European industry. That leads to a really interesting question about what it means to be European, which is a question that we address quite a lot in ERSC. We have rules on the membership of European companies, but defining what is a European company is sometimes not always so easy. New space, startups, new business models. So want to talk about how new business models could be applied here. That brings us to issues like contracting procedures. Could PCP play a role in this, pre-competitive procurement? But something that at ERSC, I and others are very keen on. It brings questions about free and open data policy. You know, how can that be maintained with commercial data? Can it be maintained with commercial data? Is there a separation? There are ways to deal with that. And finally, again, an old topic, but one which is, I think, very, very topical now, about anchor tenancy and what could be the way to help European startups to come into the business. And anchor tenancy is certainly a very powerful way to help with that, and fits with a theme that we have of buy the service. So don't buy the infrastructure, buy the service. So that hopefully sort of sets the scene. And I hope I've set the scene for Katarina rather than taking any of her messages or any of her thunder. But with no further ado, let me hand over to Katarina to explain a bit what's happening with the consultation and to give you a bit more background on what's happening with this initiative. Katarina.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, Jeff. It was very, I said it's very good. Actually, I don't know more details about the workshop or the approach. I think the participants here in the virtual meeting room are familiar with the concept of contributing missions of Copernicus, or yes, no?
So what your perspective is there. I think most people will be familiar, but it doesn't hurt to say.
Very briefly, so the Copernicus program, we have, of course, our Sentinel data, the dedicated missions, and complementary to it is our contributing missions. These are the commercial data. And it's interesting because I will pass the word also to Thomas with the Cassini initiative, because it follows, or what we're doing is the EU space regulation kicked in. And it's exactly what you just mentioned, to give more weight to European players, SMEs, startups, obviously also our established companies. The European ones are very welcome, and it's very good that they are on board. So what happened is, and I saw colleagues from ESA are also here in the meeting room, together with our colleagues, and we have a small team, we're preparing the revision of this contributing mission activity in order to follow or to try to implement and get real onboarding of SMEs, new space companies, startups into this CCM activities. For this, obviously, procurement is going to get out, and this is going to be prepared in 2022. So this ITT comes out end 2022, second half of 2022. So what are we doing now is preparing this, listening to our delegates, our member states, Copernicus participating states, listening to industry. We have this talk today, also this workshop to explain, but also to listen, to prepare this procurement for the contributing mission activity in a way that it really follows, obviously, the objectives of the space regulation, but it also trying to set in or to kick in those comments that we get from industry. And I'm happy that you talked or you discussed or you just put forward this anchor tendency. It's about data buy, it's about buying services, but not necessarily infrastructure. We as Commission, we do see ourselves as influential customer. We will discuss this later. Also, maybe my colleagues from ESA will put this forward, because you can go through the extreme only data buy, but maybe also data buy and service buy, and maybe then a bit further. But I'm not going to go too much into this subject because this will be discussed at the workshop. And this is 16th and 17th of November in the afternoon. You can still register as a participant. It's on our website. What are we going to do at that workshop? And Jeff, thank you for mentioning it. So ESA broadcasted what we call request for information, a survey. It's actually, we drafted the questions together because what we want to know is, you have this contributing mission activity now as it's organized. So what we have in place is different contracts where you have ESA with a company or ESA with a consortium for the very high resolution data. So we have systematic data and on-demand data. And what we want to understand from industry is this the right way forward? What is your preference? If you're a small company, an SME, would you like to see this continuing, or would you prefer to have be part of a consortium? Would you prefer to see a service contract? All these questions were in the request for information that was sent out, and we are very grateful. We had quite a good reply to this survey. So all those that are here in the meeting room today, sincere thanks. It's a big effort to do, but you can make sure, or you can be assured that we're going to work with that. We're now digesting the results, and we will put this forward at the workshop. So 16 and 17 November. The 16th, the bulk of the workshop is more on presentations of new space companies, but also for other ones, they have an opportunity to have their pitch in the networking sessions. And the second day is really to discuss specific items that came up in this RFI. Like you just said, it's about anchor tenancy, the contractual approach, licenses also, and so on. If you as a company were not able to reply in time to this RFI, please also take opportunity from this workshop where we will discuss this, because it's open. It's our discussion with industry. So that's very important. This a bit in a nutshell. How many minutes have I been talking?
You're fine, Catherine.
I always try to be concise. Sorry. Yeah.
Can you just say a little bit more about the networking sessions? What you're looking for and what the companies can do?
So networking sessions. Obviously, the workshop unfortunately is online. So yeah, it's not physical. So what happens? If you have a normal workshop, you go in the corner, you see people, you talk, and you have a way to interact. So I was talking to our communication team, and they say upfront to the meeting, in the beginning of the meeting, we will understand, or we will ask you, who would you like to talk to? Your company, you're maybe from an organization. You can give upfront your preference, and then we will make like a top 5 of the biggest preferences, and we will create rooms. There may be one big meeting room in the beginning for those short presentations, 3-minute pitches of the ones that were not able to present during the day, because obviously we don't have a lot of time. We want to hear a lot of presentations, but also have room for discussion and questions. And that's why we have the network sessions on both days. So really want to have these presentations up there also. So
companies can apply to you to make a 3-minute pitch.
Yes.
That will be sort of to everybody. And then they can ask you if they can have a sort of a private room to discuss, or is this a room with sort of 10?
That was, okay, hello?
Yeah. Hello.
Okay. So a private room.
His microphone's on.
A private room, it's networking sessions. So it's always room with different participants in the room and moderators also. We had this call for presenters, but I think it's closed on the 31st of October. It was closed. I think we did have a long list of companies that wanted to give a presentation. What we said is we will go through it. We will see that we can accommodate as much as possible. But for those presentations which cannot be in a day or in the network sessions, we will share the presentations. We asked, present in 2-3 slides your activity. What are you doing? But also, how can this activity contribute to the Copernicus contributing mission activity? And what I didn't mention in the beginning is that this contributing mission activity really fulfills the need of our Copernicus services that cannot be met through the Sentinel data, because yeah, Sentinel data first. If it's not possible, then we have plan B, the contributing mission activity, which is extremely useful. Emergency, security, the on-demand data, for example.
Do you see issues between sort of commercial offerings and some of the new Copernicus missions?
Issues?
Well, do you? I don't know. It's just a thought, but it could be that a commercial company wishes to be in a position to supply a Copernicus, meet a Copernicus need, and that may be sort of conflicted. Perhaps it's a bit strong, but with the Copernicus mission, which sort of changes the business case, is what I mean.
I'm not sure to understand, because what happens is our Copernicus services are using the Sentinel data for all their needs. For those that are not being met, they can refer or they use the Copernicus contributing missions. Okay. We open now up to onboarding of new space companies that are going to fulfill, and we talk about normally optical data, radar data, but we also open up to what we call other type of data or other data. And some of these it's also to make our Copernicus service used to this expansion missions that are coming up, to make them used to this type of data. I don't know if this answers your question a bit, or
it goes in direction. We've got Thomas with us. I mean, maybe it's just to understand a little bit how Cassini plays in this. How do you see Cassini
the link,
link with this this initiative, Thomas.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Jeff. Very, very nice to be invited to EOcafe again. So, Katarina explained a bit the objectives here, and if I think about how can we make sure that we get more successful companies in Europe working with either infrastructures in space or with downstream services, we have to understand what are the basic steps to build a company. And of course, they need investments in order to be able to expand and address new markets. But in order to get the investments, they have to show that they have some traction on the market, that they can find paying customers and so on. If we can use the procurement instrument to try to help companies that have very interesting products and that are meeting needs, then this can help them also to show that they have paying customers, they have long-term contracts, and that can help them then to secure venture capital investments to grow further. So we want them to get into this virtual circle if it's possible. Now, in this instance, we can use the procurement principles that are in the new Union Space Regulation. In other instances, we can use the actions that we are setting up now under the Cassini initiatives. One of the things we will have beginning of next year is the new Cassini Investment Fund, which will be implemented with EIF. So those who are interested in creating a space investment fund in a country can get part of the capital from the EIF, which is earmarked for space investments. And hopefully this will lead to many more companies getting investments at the right moment in time when they need capital to expand. So we're both encouraging the creation of VC funds focused on space and encouraging the actual investments into space companies. But then in order to help companies become investment ready, we're setting up some supporting actions, notably the Cassini matchmaking and the Cassini business accelerator. And here, I'm happy to say that we have now selected the contractor for Cassini matchmaking, so we should be able to launch this action beginning of next year. And this will consist of a series of events with two tracks: one track for connecting startups with investors, and one track to connect startups with larger corporations in various fields, so that they can find opportunities for industrial partnering and joint product development, or sharing distribution channels and so on. We think this will really help many entrepreneurs to find new business opportunities, and then in turn, hopefully unlock investments. So watch out for the Cassini matchmaking. We hope to put it online as well rather soon. And the consortium we have selected is very interesting because it has a number of different partners who have already been working with matchmaking in the past, and very successfully so. And we will cover many different countries in Europe also. So we think this is going to be something very good and useful for the startup companies and the growth stage companies.
Well, certainly as ERSC, we look forward to sort of supporting that and working with you on that with the contractors. So I'm a company, or turn back the clock, a young engineer with a new idea. I hear that there's the Copernicus contributing missions, and there may be an opportunity to get some support. Not sure what support yet from that quarter. I see there's an opportunity in Cassini to get some finance, maybe some funding from the EIF. How does that play together? What should I do? Am I looking at both? Do I need to get some recognition from the EIF in order to qualify to be a serious player for the contributing missions? Or do I need something coming from the contributing missions saying, yes, we're interested in this data and we're interested in being a customer for this data if you're able to get the data flowing? How do you see that working? I address that to both of you.
Yeah, so from my perspective, the company should be working on several fronts. I'm sorry, my cat here wants to answer the question, but he likes to walk in front of the camera. Yeah. So they need to work on several fronts simultaneously, right? Probably they need to secure partners in order to deploy their technology. They need to probably to present to various customers to see whether these customers would be interested in the kind of data and services they can provide. They should be talking to investors at the same time, and just trying to square this circle. That's the very difficult thing with being an entrepreneur, and often it's the second or third time entrepreneurs that are more successful, because they have learned the lessons for how to work on all these fronts simultaneously. And it will be a bit of a challenge also for those who want to participate in a call for tender for Copernicus contributing missions, that they have to present a credible plan for how do we place our new constellation in space, and how do we build all these services and so on. But we've seen very interesting examples, such as ISI, be able to do that in the past. So why not in the future?
Sure, we certainly hope so, and with different types and complementary types of data to add to the variety.
Yeah.
So
and it doesn't only have to be small startups. I mean, it could also be larger established companies that set up new operations. And we need to build on our whole industrial base in Europe, right?
Yeah. Okay. So Katarina, what are you looking for in companies that might come forward?
Mm-hmm. So it's the work that they're going to do if they want to participate in Cassini is actually also very useful for when they want to participate in this contributing mission activity. What is very important there to know is that what we seek is strategic autonomy, which means that we have, European, of course, that the share of the European space playing field becomes richer, more activities, more companies. Strategic autonomy for us also means that we are not going to be dependent on one single data source, that we have multiple data sources. Okay, so preparation, what we are looking for is onboarding of new space companies. But the rule of the game is actually that they are able to answer to the data needs of our Copernicus services. We will explain this also at the workshop, so that companies can really, those that are not familiar, that they get a better grip of what is it exactly. So it also means that you do not have to be fully operational yet, because it's new space, it's an SME or startup. But if your business plan is convincing enough, if at a certain point in time you will be able to deliver data that are fitting our Copernicus Services very high resolution data needs, then you may be offered a contract. How we're going to do that, we're still trying to establish this together with the industry, together with our member states. So it's ESA and Commission, and we're doing that. And obviously also Thomas, and we're doing this together, and other colleagues. We're looking at the different elements. Let's say we listen to you, to industry, listen to our delegates. And that's what we try to put out there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, I think that's good, and obviously not all the answers are there. That's why we're talking now, and why you have the consultation and the workshop. Just a reminder to everybody. I mean, there must be dozens of questions out there, so please do come into the chat and put your question. Or
Jeff, I thought Thomas and I were very clear. We can.
No, you have been very clear. That's fine, but that doesn't mean to say there's still not a lot of questions.
No, I'm just kidding, because thank you for that. Yeah, let's hear some questions so that we can understand what is going on. What is it what is not clear for you? What is maybe clear for us, or which we didn't touch? Please come in with your questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Big panel. But that means that I can't then see.
You will have to go first, Jeff.
I can't see the chat. So please. Now I've lost my screen completely.
Yeah, the screen changed.
Yeah, thanks. That's better. So, whilst people are working out what they want to know about, can I come back to you on this question of anchor tenancy? Because it's, for me, it's one possible way. I think it's a very good way. Do you have any thoughts as to how that would work? You would probably, I'm asking something which again is unanswerable today, but just maybe to expand thoughts on anchor tenancy, and I can possibly also come in if you wish.
Yes. Let me first, this doesn't come out of nowhere. I mean, I think the colleagues here also, in 2019, there was already a survey done with industry, with a lot of companies, and they indicated what we want, what we need is anchor tenancy. Because outside Europe, there's a strong public support. The US, China, they're investing a lot. So, okay, we need also to see how we can get something in place from our side also. So industry clearly pointed out anchor tenancy, yes, please, contracts for data buy, but we want to stay a bit the owner of the design and implementation. Is this still the case? Actually, we hope to find out in this new survey that was done by ESA. It just closed last week. And we will see what the reply was, because there were different SME startups that have answered, also established companies answered. So, and hopefully at the workshop, we will discuss more and see how is it best shaped. What is really that can help growing our space industry with more companies, European-based companies, European-owned companies in place.
Yeah, and I think what companies are looking for, and please, anyone who wishes to can contradict me, but I think what companies are looking for is customers. So they're looking to, they're not so much looking for support or grants, although those can be welcome as well. What they really want is customers, and if there's a customer there that they can see, that they know is willing to pay for a certain volume of data and a certain budget, they can build a business plan around that, and then they can seek financing, and so you get a good circle. So the idea of anchor tenancy as a means to achieve this, I think, is a very strong one, but it's one that's always been very, very difficult to actually put in practice, and at some point probably need to talk about sort of legal and contractual conditions associated with it, because that can make or break the initiative.
Maybe Thomas wants to comment on this one also, or?
Yeah, you're right, Jeff. It is difficult. Partly it's difficult because of the procurement procedures that make it cumbersome for new companies to participate and fulfill all the different criteria that are usually requirements in public procurement. Though in the new space regulation, it's clearly said that we should attempt to create a level playing field also for SMEs to participate in calls for tender. So the objective is clearly there, and there are several procurement principles already laid down in the regulation that we can use. And it is also said in the regulation that we should strive to avoid situations with a single supplier in various fields, right? Yeah. Which also, it indicates that we should try to promote competition and try to promote supply, to address supply vulnerability and have several suppliers wherever we can. We think that we can do this by adapting a little bit the way that we do calls for tender in the future. And it could be for Copernicus contributing missions. It could also be in other areas where the Union Space Program needs to purchase services.
Okay. I mean, one of the legal difficulties, I don't know if it's been addressed yet, but certainly one of the legal difficulties in the past is simply committing ahead. You know, it's being able to say, yes, we'll buy from you in 2 years or 3 years time if you come forward with this. But if that doesn't coincide with the budget cycle, you know, you really immediately have a problem, because you can't commit budget from the next budget cycle. Or is there other ways to address that?
Yeah, you're right. So first of all, we need to acknowledge that we need to have a longer time perspective than we've had in the past. We need to understand how you build a company in a 10-year perspective, and then try to see if it's possible to give long-term contracts to companies who are about to create this infrastructure and then start delivering at a certain date. So we understand what is necessary for the companies to have, and then it depends on who is the contracting authority. Is it the Commission or is it ESA? If ESA procures, it might give us a little bit more flexibility here, and we think it's very positive that we've had talks with ESA about how we will address these long-term objectives, and that has been very constructive. So I think we're on our way to finding the practical solutions to that.
Well, that's really good, and I like, you know, that you talk about build a company with a 10-year perspective. I think that's really important. That's a really important message.
Especially in the space industry, right? Because it's not like you can create your own app and then place it on the app store. It's really a much longer process to build all these resources.
So
Catherine.
Yeah, maybe to also to complement what Thomas, what you have been saying also, is that obviously for the contributing missions activity, it's not a full free and open data policy that we apply. That's for the Sentinels, yes. So, but for the contributing mission activity, it's not like this, because it doesn't match with the anchor tenancy. If we ask the company to also seek other customers, we cannot say, okay, but then also you have to put your data full free and open there, then they have nothing to sell anymore. So that's I hope that is very clear, that there's this commercial or the data licenses, which means that licenses are paid for this data to be used by our Copernicus services. The Copernicus services can use this data, combine it with other type of data of information, and the information provided by the Copernicus services, that is full, free, and open, but not the very high resolution commercial data.
Okay, I'm glad you raised that, because that was the question I was going to come on to regarding the ambition for the free and open data policy. And Copernicus generally is a full free and open data policy, but not for the contributing missions. So what are the ideas or plans for dealing with that? So I think you addressed that. So that is to say that there'll be no political ambition to extend the free and open data policy to commercial data suppliers.
No, but what we did ask in the RFI is, please, companies, help thinking with us together. Let's be very creative, because what happens is, so we have basically the systematic data, which are what we call, for example, the very high resolution land cover. That is a planned data set. We would like to have it yearly. And then you have, on the other side, the on-demand data. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. That something came in.
I said the wrong thing.
I have 5 things coming in. Sorry.
Maybe I can continue on your train of thought, Katarina. we obviously want private companies to be able to build business models for their private customers and also for their institutional customers, right? So if we would offer the data fully free and open, then how would that impact the business model that they have to provide services on the private markets? So it would be very interesting to hear from companies, how do they view how do they create these business models, and how do they differentiate between different customers so that they can have a viable business in the future.
No. I found my train again. So
yes, good.
Go ahead quickly.
Yeah, because what happens is that we ask them, look, what we have are data, that these data, there is some of this data are also to be reused by our public authorities.
Yeah.
Internally. It's mostly the systematic data. So think with us together. For the on-demand data, it's the reuse is less, okay? So maybe these ones, if we have emergency security, they're more interested not in separate each time one image that they get, but maybe like a solution like a plugin, a streaming of data that they can get access to a lot of data at the same time. And that's another, yeah, let's look together at this, where you have for the VHR coverage, that's more this, a bit of a more, I don't know how to say that, a fixed approach more, because, okay, that's this big, huge land coverage that we would need yearly, seasonal, yeah. So I see coming in this question, and I can immediately continue on what I just said. For the VHR coverage, land coverage, what we currently have, we have to have a 3-yearly coverage. Why? Because it's very difficult to compose this. We talk about 6 million square kilometers that we need cloudless, cloud-free, haze-free. At this point in time, we don't have a single satellite or constellation that can solve it. It's fitting in different companies. Our service, land monitoring service, our public authorities, this request comes in, or the colleagues from DG Agri, they start asking, can you have this on a yearly basis, on a seasonal basis? And this has everything to do also with the Green Deal ambitions and the reporting and everything. So if the question there in the chat is saying, is there a shortfall? Yes, we would like to have more companies that can help us with the data need for the VHR, for the coverage, but also for the on-demand data, and yeah, European solutions preferably. Yeah.
That's interesting. Raichi, does that answer your question, or do you want to come in and follow up on it? Give you a moment to respond if you wish.
No, it's all good. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So then let me carry on, which actually carries on quite nicely from that, because you're looking for more and a variety of data. You mentioned earlier about consortia, possibility of consortiums. So you would see the possibility for partners to offer a mix of data and to offer sort of different packages. That would be part of the sort of the range of possibilities, or not?
So we will look into the results of this survey. What have they answered? Because first things first, our Copernicus Services, they need to keep on going. They need to keep their business continuity. If a package of data serves what they need, then fine, that's okay. We do want to move forward and see different solutions coming up. And we're not going to invent this. We're going to look at what replies came in. We listen also. We also see what is happening outside of Europe, obviously, because there's also a lot going on. And we would like actually our European companies also have a look and start developing also these solutions so that we get more autonomy also here in Europe, okay?
Yeah,
so that's a bit the message. Yeah.
So really message to companies to come forward with ideas and to discuss them. Thomas Sukup, do you want to come in?
Yeah, sorry, I just tried to find, but I'm unmute. Yeah, I basically, this is a simple question, but maybe not so simple answer. I think this maybe the workshop will give some clarity. But from what you say, Katarina, so do you plan some kind of different eligibility kind of specification for a different contribution mission, or would you follow some kind of general scheme, or?
Can you explain what you mean by eligibility?
I mean, we discussed this, these will be mostly the private providers. So the data will be used within the Copernicus services available for service providers, but we discuss also some local authorities. So my question is, if you think of some kind of scale this eligibility for the different groups which use the Copernicus services based on the data, or there will be some kind of general rules or something like that. I hope I'm more clear now.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I understand. Thomas, thank you for your question. I hope I understand. We're actually looking into it. What is the best way to organize this? And the colleagues of ESA are also here. It's new. We're going to start doing new things here also for this procurement. So it has to be flexible in one way to have to allow the onboarding of new companies that provide data that our Copernicus services need. But if at one point in time it appears that this company unfortunately is not able to provide what we need, then yeah, we need to foresee that. How do we deal with that? How do we deal with maybe within 1 year another brilliant company comes up, is going to be kicked off next year, and or within 3 years, we need to foresee that they can be onboarded also. So we're looking into that. We don't have a solution now yet because we're trying to find out what is the best way to organize this.
Okay, thanks. So it will be something between aim of continuity and and performance of the provider.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. In the perfect world, our Copernicus services should actually not see a difference in terms of that they can continue what they do. They get even other data. They can test their pilots. They can get those data that they need, maybe faster, completer. That's the enhancement from that side also, of course. Yeah.
I guess there's also an issue for the discussion around the data policy. And so if you're talking about eligibility circles, who's open to, who's eligible to access the data and under what conditions? Okay, a couple of questions coming in. I haven't got time to read it, but Thomas and Lara.
There is a question on the use of the data from the Copernicus contributing missions. Maybe Katarina could just briefly say which authorities are using the data that is bought.
Sorry, I'm just, do you first the energy? I'm trying to grasp the question. The contributing mission activity is dealt with by, we already said that, by ESA. The ones that are in it are our Copernicus Services what we call entrusted entities. So I see it's Frontex, for example, and SATSET, but EMSA not. EMSA has its own system. They're not in this contributing mission activity that we have, because they have a separate organization. So, and sorry, and what is the question?
I think Thomas is referring back, I think it was back to the question that Raichi asked about the sort of the needs of the contributing missions. Let me, Thomas Lera's got quite a complex question in there. So let's, Thomas, can you explain your question to us?
I can elaborate a little bit. So my understanding, like you talked about, it's only companies who are, delivering services inside of the Copernicus contributing missions that have access to the data within that ecosystem, right? Is that a correct understanding?
Yes, but we also have our public authorities that can have access to these data. They can reuse it, but there are some strict licenses, so they can, but currently they are not reusing it a lot, which is actually a shame, because we're paying for the license. These data could be very well reused by our public authorities. It's indeed the Copernicus Services And then you have the interested entities, but they work with contractors. So these contractors have access to these data to help producing the information products that are needed. Huh? Yeah.
Right, okay. So just from my understanding, so for instance, here in Norway, you're probably familiar with KSAT as an example. They can get specific tasks or missions from ENSA, SATSEN, or Frontex, and then through that, they would be able to access Copernicus contributing mission data, right?
Yes.
So they are sort of very well rigged to do that because they've been doing that for a lot of years. My question is really just about the startups or SMEs role in this, where it's very hard to compete on the terms set out by some of these institutional customers. Do you see any change in that sense where the CCM also maybe can help smaller companies get a foot inside of the door to start delivering services there?
This is exactly what we would like to reach, that it's not only for a few known, because like you just said, if you're part of this ecosystem, you're very well known, you know all the jargon, you're in, and this is what we want to break open. We want to, so your feedback is extremely useful. Here we hear, what are your struggles? Because it's sometimes not obvious for you as a company outside because the established big companies, they have access. So also that's why these networking sessions are important. Unfortunately, they're online, but let's go for it. And so that you get and ask the questions, sorry, this is not clear for me. How does that work? And yeah. So keep on going, doing these questions to all of us. And we would actually, and I think Thomas for sure agrees, we would like to have all the SME startups to get that same knowledge level of all others. It's a level playing field. Everybody should have access to the same type and kind of information. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be very interesting, as Katarina says. If we can have a number of SMEs who can supply data and get paid for that, maybe not at the same quantity as the larger established companies, but they get a foothold on the market and they can develop, customers also on the private market. So that would be the objective.
I think Thomas, carry on.
Just have a quick follow-up in that regard. So we don't even really provide, satellite data as such, right? We use satellite data and we apply intelligence, machine learning inside of that to detect ships. That's our core business. So really, it's also about it's not just about providing the data, but being able to compete on terms where our models are evaluated at the same level as these established companies. We have a few novel, innovative methods to do so. So it's hard to do that without access to the data or the imagery as well, right? Because also the very high resolution stuff, because that also gives the primes an even further advantage in that they get a more robust model, they have a more robust delivery system. So I understand the conundrum.
So if I understand, you want to exploit the satellite data and then build services which you then sell to some end customer. So obviously what we need to take into account is that for the Sentinels, there is this policy that you can use the data for free. But if you want to use like very high resolution data, then there are companies that want to earn a buck from their investments into their infrastructure and their services, of course. So that's why we need to respect the licensing agreements and make sure that we don't take that data and then maybe deprive another company of their business model. So everyone in the chain has to be able to profit from it.
And I respect sort of that model. It's just in case of SATSEN or Frontex, as an example, they might be buying the data already, right? But applying, intelligence or insights inside of that data, it's hard to do. So they, as a customer, shouldn't be charged twice for that data, right? You see what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand, but of course there are economies of scale. So if you're, for example, working with artificial intelligence and crunching data, I mean, the larger data sets and infrastructures you have, the lower the unit cost becomes. That's obviously that's the advantage of the large incumbents on all the internet markets. I mean, we cannot change that fact, but we can maybe lower some of the obstacles for new entrants on the space market.
There is an important point in there, I think, as well, that you know, from the customer point of view, if they're going out for a procurement, they're looking for some assurance that the business or the company they're buying from is robust, that the data can be secured over a certain period of time. And maybe for a new startup, that's harder to show than an established company. So there needs to be some help on the procurement side as well, in order to square the circle or to make that work.
Mm.
Yeah.
No
one's
to reflect on this one. Yeah, no, it's very good. We're going to reflect on this. Thank you for the remark.
Yeah, no one's coming in to contradict me, so that's always a good sign. Raichi, did you have a follow-up question, or again, is your question been answered? Because I'm not quite sure the second one how that relates. I think it's been answered earlier, but let me come on, open up your microphone and come in.
Oh yeah, it was just to sort of clarify, like, who are the sort of main users or customers of the commercial data provided in the in the frame of CCM. I think you mentioned earlier the open data policy won't be applied to these data, so which means that these commercial data will have to be provided in a restricted manner through licensing agreements to certain advanced users like public authority, like EU agency as such. Is that?
Yeah. In the first place, are Copernicus Services. So they're different entrusted entities, and it's mainly actually it's mainly land Copernicus Land Monitoring Service. It's the EA and the GGRC. It's emergency and security, because you can imagine for emergency, for example, they need, if there is a disaster, they need immediate access to very specific satellite data. So they are the main users. If we talk about what we call we call them entrusted entities, they have to provide this service, but obviously they cannot do it themselves. So they work with contractors, subcontractors, and these get access to these data to help or to provide within this emergency service what is needed. So that's in the first place. Our Copernicus Services, they are the 6, in principle the 6, but in practice it's mostly land. There's also marine, I think, for a small part, emergency and security. We will explain this in the workshop on the first day. So it's very good that you posed this question, because we see here that there's indeed not maybe enough, that the knowledge is not completely over all participants the same of what is this actually? Who's using this kind of data? So ESA is managing the contributing mission activity. They have a budget, they get a budget to do this data buy, what we call. And within this, obviously, there's also the part for the licenses. Having said that, then our public authorities, and I think there's a definition who is a public authority within the different member states, they can access some of these contributing mission data. Obviously not the one for security, except for those that have the authorization.
And this is paid, or how do these public authorities or emergency services purchase through a separate tender, or paying for the license?
No, they're not purchasing. They're the customers of this contributing mission activity. So, and we work within this activity.
ESA buying.
ESA buys. Yeah, ESA buys. Sorry, yeah, that's right.
Thanks, Henri.
We work with quotas, obviously, because we have a limited budget for this, so that emergency, some years have a lot of disasters to cover, but they work with quotas. So we work with quotas to buy this data, and ESA buys the data. Henri maybe wants to come in.
Maybe it's also because he's coming back, maybe to close the loop also with Geoff. Indeed, here, one objective is really to be, and Catherine has used the word, influencing users. Sorry, I forgot the word, Catherine, but basically Copernicus here has because we have a need, and we talk about very high resolution data need, we want to be an influential customer in a sense. Yes, we have a big budget. It's for a lot of activities that Catherine has mentioned. And with also an idea, coming back also to a point of Thomas, to also influence also the way other entities very close to that logic. But for other things than Copernicus, like EMSA for the CleanSealet program, like maybe others for DG Agri, we try to really aggregate that large need. So we become a big pot, meaning then a good anchor customer for all the commercial providers being established on new space, giving a perspective long-term, and at the same time to be influential in the sense that we can influence somewhat some design choice that those companies are doing, even if in reality we are customer. So that's the big idea, I would say.
Okay.
We don't want exactly what Ryushi was saying, that each small I would say entities buy on their side, because it will be unmanageable, it will not a good use of public money, it will be difficult anyway for even the commercial provider to satisfy all. So that's why we will try to move into that aggregation and to make that also growing. Katerina has not mentioned, but really in Copernicus, in what we call the space component, the contributing mission activity is growing in budget because we have the need, and Katerina has well explained that. We have the need, and I mean, more or less, it's 10% of the budget of the space component, maybe even a little bit more. So it's growing, and from my point of view, it will continue to grow in the future, because Sentinel, even the next Sentinel, are not going to substitute what is done at very high resolution. These are two different worlds which will be separated for a long time. And the commercial very high resolution would still be there. And we want to be sure that we have enough European VHR provider, which has been an issue in the last years, to satisfy the Copernicus needs.
Great, thanks, Henri. I thought you were looking to come in. I almost asked you to contribute. I'm going to draw that to a close now. We're just coming up to the end of the EOcafe. Invite Thomas or Katerina if you have any last words you want to say just before I close the meeting. Reminder to attend the workshop, of course.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks very much for organizing these, sessions and bringing people together. And this is what we will continue to build on also with the Cassini actions. We need to bring people together also between the various European countries, and there will be a lot more business opportunities that way. We need to learn from each other. Being an entrepreneur is also a learning process.
Yeah. You alluded to that earlier about learning from mistakes, and that's quite important part of the process.
Yeah. So thanks a lot for inviting us.
Yes, thank you very much. It's very useful, and hopefully, it was useful for all participants. Thank you very much.
I think so. I think it's an important initiative. We've noticed that people seem to be becoming shyer at asking questions. I really don't know why, but maybe we can find a way to overcome that. But thank you very much for your time, especially Katerina for taking time out of your holiday to speak with us today. And,
okay.
I again encourage everyone to join the workshop. I think it's a good opportunity, an excellent opportunity to put views forward. Unfortunately, I shan't be able to join myself because I'm still busy organising the workshop that you see on screen now. Very, very busy with that. I think it will also be an interesting opportunity to understand a lot what users are looking for, particularly public users. Which is the essence of our work in SEBS, where we look at the value that's created through the use of Copernicus Sentinel data. The methodology can be applied to other data, but we're contracted to look at Copernicus. And we see really big opportunities emerging from it. So please join us for this event. That's on the 18th, 19th of November. That also means that there won't be an EOcafe in 2 weeks' time, because that would clash with the SEBS workshop. But we will come back in 4 weeks' time, 2nd of December, when we're going to address the subject of EuroGeo. This is quite a big topic. We've talked about EShape in the EOcafe. EuroGeo is the sort of European initiative to contribute to the international geo community, but also to benefit from the community that's created by geo. So there are a number of strands to EuroGeo, including EShape as a project. So come and join us on the 2nd of November to talk about that. Hopefully I should be moving house, but hopefully I'll find the time for the EOcafe at that time. And look forward to seeing you again then. So
yeah.
At this point, we close the sort of formal, informal part of the EOcafe and throw it open. Everybody can open their microphones and come in. So